let's factor this example. Now, first thing we need to do is determine what are the possible values that could factor. So, possible values that could factor here, there's no coefficient. So, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, and plus or minus 6. Those are the only things that could work. So what we want to do first is we want to use the factor theorem to try and find a remainder equal to 0. So we're going to choose one of those values, and we're going to find a remainder equal to 0. So let's start logically and start with the easiest one. Let's try P of 1. So we just put 1 into our polynomial. So 1 cubed minus 6 times 1 squared plus 11 times 1, hope everyone's getting happy, minus 6. Because often, as you write it down at first, we're going to see this is going to work. 1 minus 6 plus 11 minus 6 turns into 0. So now we have determined that one of the factors is 1. So that means that the binomial is x minus 1. That's one of the factors. Now what we have to do is we have to figure out the other factors. And this is where we need to go back and do our synthetic division. Because what we want to do now is we want to take this polynomial right here, and we want to divide it by this binomial. Because we're trying to factor out this binomial by dividing it into this polynomial. So back to synthetic division. So we're going to have 1. And the coefficients, 1, negative 6, 11, and negative 6. So bring down the 1. 1 times 1 is 1, which is minus 5. Minus 5 times 1 is minus 5. Add those together, we get 6. 6 times 1 is 6, and that's equal to 0. And we know that that was going to equal to 0 because our remainder theorem, or our factor theorem I should say, told us we're going to have a remainder of 0. So these now are the leading coefficients of our new polynomial, which is dropped down 1 degree. So we get x squared minus 5x plus 6. That's our quadratic, and we can't forget that we have this x minus 1 kicking around still. This is our binomial we figured out. Now we have a quadratic, and this goes back to factoring a quadratic. How do we factor this quadratic? Well, this is an easy one because we're trying to find two numbers that multiply to negative or to positive 6 and add to negative 5. So this just factors into x minus 3, x minus 2, and we have another x minus 1 over here. And there is our polynomial in factored form. And if we look here, these numbers, 2 and 3, come from here as well. So we're not going to get any factors that don't show up right here. That being said, we could have chosen positive 2, put it into our polynomial here, and got the same thing, got a different quadratic, and go through and you get the exact same answer. So it doesn't matter which number you use. It's just 1 and positive 1, if that's a possible value, are always the easiest to check mathematically. Why do something hard if we can make it easy?